Lola had always been driven, standing out from her sisters with a fierce determination that seemed almost unnatural. Growing up in a household with 5 sisters, she was the one who had refused to settle for anything less than the highest level of success. Her father, a man of traditional values, had often lamented not having a son. Although he took pride in his daughter's education, he saw them as passing through his life, eventually to marry and bear another family's name. But Lola was different. She took his words about legacy and works to heart, determined to show her father and the world that she was capable of achieving greatness. While her sisters spent weekends attending social gatherings or dreaming about future marriages, Lola dedicated herself to her studies. Every spare moment spent with her head buried in books. She would be the exception, the daughter who rose above expectations. Her ambitions wasn't simply about proving to her father. Lola had her own plans, meticulously crafted over the years. By the time she turned 30, she aimed to be a powerful CEO, to have her own name and respected in her industry, and to amass a fortune that would allow her to sit confidently at the top. There would be no distractions, no diversions, just an unwavering focus on her goals. This single-minded pursuit often clashed with her relationships, particularly with her younger sister. Tolu was everything Lola despised, carefree and naive. She frequently voiced her dreams of marrying a wealthy man who would care for her, dismissing her education as unnecessary. To Lola, this was the height of irresponsibility. She saw Tolu's choices as weak and foolish, the very trait she had vowed to avoid. So when Tolu, barely out of school, announced she was pregnant and abandoned by the father, Lola's disdain was unmatched. Their father was furious, his disappointments turning into a harsh ultimatum. He told Tolu that if the baby was a boy, he would bear the family's name and stay. If it was a girl, she and the child would be cast out. The family's reaction varied, each person responding differently. Lola's mother was heartbroken, but devoted, offering what support she could, despite the husband's threat. Lola, however, remained unmoved. To her, Tolu's situation was a proof of irresponsibility, another reminder of the failures that came from lack of planning. When Tolu, in need of comfort, turned to Lola, her sister's response was anything but supportive. "Did I get you pregnant?" Lola snapped, her voice sharp and cold. "Did I ask you not to finish school and take your education seriously? If you need help, go find the father of your child. You made your choices. Live with them." Their mother, overhearing the exchange, scolded Lola. "Tolu made her mistake, but she's still family. Don't be so quick to judge. Life doesn't always go as planned." Yet, Lola shrugged off her mother's words. She had her own plans, her own path, and no tolerance for those who couldn't follow theirs. Months passed and Tolu endured her pregnancy under the strained atmosphere of the household. When she finally gave birth to a son, their father accepted the child, reluctantly, giving him the family's name, as he had promised Lola, however, remained aloof, her view of Tolu unchanged. She saw her sister's struggles as self-inflicted, the result of poor choices. But it wasn't only Tolu who felt the sting of Lola's judgment. Her impatience and disdain extended to the women she encountered daily. At the market, she watched with irritations as mothers with numerous children begged, seeking alms to feed their families. Lola would turn away, muttering to herself, "If you cannot afford to care for a child, why have so many?" She had no empathy for their struggle, seeing their situation as avoidable. When a young mother approached her one day, her child clinging to her side, Lola's response was swift and cutting. "Please, ma," the woman whispered, her hand outstretched. "I just need something for my baby." Lola's expression hardened as she replied coolly, "If you can't take care of a child, then don't bring one into this world." She turned away without another word, leaving the woman standing, crestfallen. Lola's mother, concerned by her daughter's harshness, often tried to counsel her. "Not everyone has the same opportunities, Lola. Show some compassion." But Lola dismissed her mother's advice, seeing it as unnecessary. She was focused, driven, and uninterested in what she viewed as excuses for poor life choices. In her mind, she was on a path of certainty, one that had no room for errors. Compassion to her was a distraction and an indulgence she couldn't afford. Her ambitions were clear, her goals set, and her disdain for those who, in her view, lacked the discipline to shape their own lives was something she wore with quite pride. Lola was unshaken, confident that her plans would shield her from any disruption. She would be successful, respected, and powerful. The daughter who needed no help and no mistake. And so, with her family firmly mapped out, she moved forward, convinced that she alone controlled her destiny. Lola's vision of her life was meticulous, detailed each milestone carefully calculated. She envisioned her 20s as a time to build, her 30s as a time to reign, and her 40s as a time to retire wealthy and influential. Her approach to life allowed for no distraction or setback. She would achieve greatness on her terms and in no time. When she met Femi at a professional networking event, she was immediately drawn to his calmness and easygoing demeanor. Femi had a gentle humor and a knack for making people feel at ease, qualities that balanced her intense personality. Unlike many men she had encountered, Femi admired her ambitions. He was captivated by her drive, seeing it as a rare strength rather than something to compete against. Their courtship was brief and straightforward. Lola was direct about her plans, making it clear she wanted a partner who understood her goals and wouldn't interfere with her carefully laid out path. "I don't want the usual distractions people seem to welcome in life," she told him over dinner one evening. "I need someone who can walk alongside with me without questioning my choices." Femi smiled, understanding her perfectly. "I like that you know exactly what you want," he replied. "I'm here to support you, Lola. I'm happy to stand by your side and build a life together." They married within the year, a quiet ceremony attended by family and close friends. Lola had planned every detail from the guest list to the decor, ensuring that nothing was left to chance. Her sisters envied the seamless elegance of her wedding, marveling at her ability to orchestrate every detail with precision. To them, she seemed untouchable, a woman who knew exactly how to get what she wanted. As they settled into married life, Lola made it clear that children would come only when they fit into her schedule. She didn't want motherhood to be a distraction or to throw her off her career path. She explained her timeline to Femi, who was fully supportive. They agreed to wait a year before starting a family, aligning their plans with Lola's goals to reach a senior position at her company. When the time came, Lola approached the idea of children as methodically as she did everything else. She decided that having twins would be ideal, 2 children in one pregnancy, efficient and manageable. She chose to undergo an in vitro fertilization (IVF) to increase the likelihood of twins and even went as far as selecting the gender. "Let's go for a boy and a girl," she told Femi, who nodded in agreement. "We'll have the perfect family in one go, and then I can focus fully on my career." Femi admired her decisiveness and respected her plans, though he had always imagined a larger family. He was content to follow Lola's needs. He appreciated her vision and willingness to play the role she envisioned for him. A supportive husband and father ready to step in as a stay-at-home parent if needed. The IVF procedure was successful, and Lola became pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl, just as she had planned. Her pregnancy was smooth, and she approached it with the same efficiency she had applied to every aspect of her life. She took a 1-year leave from work, accumulating her vacations and adjusting her schedule to ensure she could take time off without losing momentum in her career. Even during her leave, she stayed connected to her work, often logging into meetings and keeping up with projects from home. When the twins were born, Lola felt a brief sense of satisfaction. She had achieved yet another goal, fulfilling her vision of family without compromising her ambition. She arranged for a trusted nanny to help care for the babies and relied on Femi's support as he stepped into the role of a primary caregiver. But Lola's return to work was swift. Only a few months after giving birth, she was back in the office. Her focus was sharp as ever. Her colleagues were surprised by her quick return. Some even questioned whether she had taken enough time to bond with her children. Lola paid them no attention. She had reached her milestone and was ready to move on to the next. The idea of slowing down was unthinkable. She was only just beginning to climb the ranks, and nothing would stand in her way. As the months passed, Lola's routine fell into place. She juggled her demanding work schedule, Delegating childcare responsibility to the nanny and Femi, her weekends were often spent attending industry events, networking and building her brand. She was a rising star, admired by her peers for her tenacity and focus. Promotion came swiftly, each one cementing her place in the industry. Femi, meanwhile, embraced his role as a stay-at-home parent with ease. He adored the twins and took pride in being there for their milestones, although sometimes he wished Lola would spend some time with them. He respected her ambitions and understood her need to succeed. He had always known who she was and he accepted her without question. But there were moments when Lola's relentless drive left him feeling isolated. He watched as she moved through life with purpose, seemingly untouched by the challenge that parenthood often brought. To her, the twins were part of a plan, another box ticked on her list of achievements. She loved them in her own way, but her love was often overshadowed by her need to excel, to reach that next level in her career. Lola's approach to motherhood raised eyebrows among her family and friends. Her sisters, who had expected her to change after having kids, were surprised by how quickly she resumed her fast-paced lifestyle. Her mother, who had hoped Lola's priorities might shift, found herself disappointed but said nothing, knowing her daughter would brush off any advice as unnecessary. But Lola was unwavering. She had her family, her career, and her life was exactly as she wanted. She was confident and she had made the right choices. That her disciplined approach to life had allowed her to achieve what others could only dream of. She believed that she had mastered the art of balance, maintaining her ambition without sacrificing her carefully constructed family. Her path was clear and she had no intentions of deviating from it. She was married, a mother, and at the peak of her career, all according to plan. To Lola, this was success, the culmination of years of hard work and meticulous planning. She had no way of knowing, however, that even the best laid out plans could easily be disrupted in ways she couldn't foresee. Lola's routine was flawless. Each morning she would rise before dawn, work out and prepare for the day, with the precision of someone who had mastered the art of balance. Her twins were well cared for, and with Femi and the nanny's support, Lola felt confident she had achieved everything she wanted. But a few months into her return to work, something began to feel off. She dismissed it initially. She felt fatigued. She told herself, after all, balancing work and family wasn't easy, even for someone as disciplined as her. But as the days passed, the exhaustion deepened, accompanied by a strange nausea that lingered throughout the day. One afternoon, she excused herself from a meeting. The dizziness overwhelmed her. By the time she reached the restroom, she felt an inexplainable wave of dread. She tried to push it aside as she splashed water on her face, determined to get through the day, but the feeling wouldn't let go. On her way home, Lola stopped by the pharmacy and decided to buy a pregnancy test, just to be sure. She was certain it would be negative. After all, she had taken every possible measure to prevent another pregnancy. The twins had been planned to the smallest details, and after their birth, she had her tubes tied, convinced it was the best solution. Back home with Femi and the twins out for the afternoon, Lola sat alone in the bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test in her hand. She watched as the seconds ticked by, and then slowly the result appeared. Positive. Her mind raced, refusing to accept the possibility. How could this be? She had taken every precaution. She had followed her plans, every step laid out to ensure nothing like this would happen. She scheduled her family perfectly. 2 children, a boy and a girl, and no more. Her life had no room for surprises like this. The shock gave way to frustration. The idea of a 3rd child felt like an intrusion, a destruction of her carefully crafted life. She couldn't have another baby now. Not when her career was on an upward trajectory. Not when she was close to reaching the goals she had set. Another child meant time away from work, setback, missed promotions, a new set of sacrifices she hadn't planned for. Lola was determined to regain control. She scheduled an appointment at the hospital, explaining to the doctor her need to terminate the pregnancy. But the doctor's expression grew serious as he reviewed her file. Lola, he said gently, "You already 4 months along. Attempting to terminate now would carry significant risks." She sat in silence, stunned, her mind trying to process his words. She had been so focused on her career, her schedule, that she hadn't even realized she was pregnant. The weight of the doctor's words hung in the air, his concern underscoring the reality she was trying to deny. When she returned home that evening, Femi immediately noticed her distress. "Is everything alright?" he asked, his voice soft with concern. Lola hesitated, then told him. She explained the pregnancy, her efforts to terminate it, and the doctor's warnings. She expected him to be as shocked as she was, to see the situation through her eyes, as a disruption, a complication, but Femi surprised her with his calm response. "Not everything in life goes exactly as we plan, Lola," he said, his tone gentle. "Sometimes things happen for a reason. Maybe we are meant to have this child." Lola's frustration deepened. She wanted him to understand the weight of what this meant for her career, for the life they had planned together. But Femi's acceptance only heightened her resentment to him. This unexpected child was a gift, another addition to their family. To her, it felt like an obstacle, an unwanted twist in a story she thought she had written. As the weeks passed, Lola tried to carry on as if nothing had changed. She continued with a demanding work schedule, determined to prove that she could handle everything, that this unplanned pregnancy wouldn't throw her off course. But her body had other plans. The fatigue grew worse, making it impossible for her to maintain the pace she was used to. Her colleagues began noticing her struggle, some offering sympathetic smiles, others curious glances. Eventually, her boss called her in for a private conversation. "We know how committed you are, but perhaps it would be best to take things a bit slow. You don't want to push yourself too hard." Lola nodded politely, concealing the anger brewing within her. This was exactly what she had feared, that people would see her as weak, incapable of balancing work and motherhood. She had spent years building her reputation, proving that she could handle anything, and now this unexpected pregnancy was undermining everything. The resentment grew, and with it, her frustration towards Femi and the twins. She felt trapped, surrounded by responsibilities she hadn't anticipated. She began spending less time at home, finding excuses to stay late at the office. Even as her energy waned, she avoided family gatherings. Her interaction with her children became more and more withdrawn. Where she once had taken pride in her efficient balancing act, now she felt as if she were mere going through the motions, weighing down by an invisible burden. When the babies arrived, Lola felt like it had spiraled beyond her control. The career she had once dominated now seemed distant. Her days filled with diapers, feeding and sleepless nights. Promotions and recognition slipped out of reach as her attention was consumed by the unexpected demands of motherhood. She returned to work after maternity leave, but her role had shifted. Someone else had stepped into her position during her absence, and the management decided to make an arrangement permanent. She was offered a lesser role, a move that felt like a punishment, a direct consequence of the path her life had taken. She was no longer the rising star. She was a woman juggling too much, her ambitions dulled by the very responsibility she had once considered beneath her. At home, Lola struggled to reconnect with her family. Femi's support remained unwavering, but she could sense his disappointment, his unspoken wish for her to embrace their family truly. Her relationship with the twins grew distant, her frustration spilling over into the interactions between them. She found herself resenting them, blaming them, especially their new babies, for the opportunities she had lost. Months passed in a blur. Lola's once clear path now obscured by the life she had tried so hard to avoid. She went through the motions, her ambition dampened, her drive subdued. She was no longer the woman who had once held her life in a perfect balance. Now she was a mother struggling to reclaim the dreams that had once defied her. And then, just as she began to settle into her reality, life threw another curve. She began feeling the same familiar symptoms, the fatigue, the nausea. Another visit to the doctor confirmed the worst fears. Pregnant again. Lola sat in the doctor's office, numb with disbelief. She had done everything to prevent this. Her tubes had been tied, she had undergone every necessary precaution. Yet, here she was, facing the same situation. Her life, upended once more. This time, the news felt like a crushing weight. The career she had once dominated seemed out of reach, her dreams slipping further and further away. As she returned home, she realized that her carefully constructed life plan was now little bit more than a memory, replaced by a reality she could no longer control. The woman who had once prided herself on her independence, her discipline, now stood at crossroads, her plans shattered, her future uncertain. We come to the end of part 1. Comment part 2 if you want to jump very soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye! Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us, turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story, like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye!